Hey, Mollie.
Hi, Kat. How are you?
I'm well. I'm well. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. Yeah.
It's great to have you here, and
Mm.
hopefully, we will be joined by some of you lovely retreaters. I know that we've had a few folks who have been doing the class this morning. Hannah
That's
loved
brilliant.
it, and Salome loved it, and so did Sandy. So, thank you very much, and hopefully, we'll be joined by some of you. Now, while we're just waiting for everyone to join us, because we know what it's like in the world of technology as we have these issues. Oh, hello, Chantal.
Yes.
Glad that you have joined us. Hi,
Yay. Hooray.
and hello. Hi, Emma. Loved it. Awesome. Great feedback. And it's really interesting, Mollie. I just wanted to dive straight in to your
Okay.
yoga journey. Because tell us a little bit more about how is it that we are doing yoga that's not quite like yoga? Like, what does your yoga look like right now, and where have you come from on your yoga journey?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, my yoga doesn't always look exactly like yoga. And I see somebody wrote great class, very different from anything I've done before.
Yeah.
I feel almost like um, sometimes I'm wondering if I should be continuing to call my work yoga or maybe I need a new name. Anyway, um, I started with getting pelted by a microphone. If you do have trouble hearing me, I can switch microphone situation.
I can
Um,
hear you just fine.
okay,
Thank you for the other half of
good. So I started with Ashtanga, really, and I just like started learning whatever I could. I think I had an attraction to yoga before I knew anything about it. I was about 20,
Mhm.
and then I went to Japan. And when I went to Japan, I was studying, and I was in quite isolated places, and I had just this, printout of the Ashtanga Yoga primary series with me, and so we would just do that. Me and this other girl would just like look at the little tiny grainy Xerox copy and just do what we could do.
Wow.
And then when I came back, my mom had actually started doing yoga at the same time, and she said, "Oh, we'll go to class together." And her yoga teacher said, "Oh, I'm going to India in May. Do you want to come?" And I said, "Yes." Like,
Oh,
absolutely, I want to come. What are you talking about? So so that was, I went to Mysore. Like, I didn't know anything. I just ended up in Mysore. So I did Ashtanga for a while, and then I did forest yoga for a while, and then I was noticing that my body was injured and it wasn't getting better, and it was kind of just migrating around my left hip, especially, and
mhm.
lower back a little bit, and then I started going back to. I had been a dancer before, and I started going back to some of the stuff that had been coming up when I was dancing, and
Mhm.
I discovered a technique called Franklin method, and I've studied. I'm in my level 3 Franklin method training right now. So the level 1 is the bones, level 2 is the muscles, and level 3 is the organs.
Mhm.
And so that's been really transformative for my process in my body. And my main concern with yoga right now is not the poses,
Mhm.
but the embodiment, right? How we get there,
Mhm.
and how we feel in it, and what the feeling experience is like, rather than what it looks like. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. With
Amazing. Yeah, no, it's a brilliant journey. Oh,
yeah,
we're joined by loads of lovely retreaters. Hello, retreaters.
I
Jane.
can't see any of your names. I just
Yeah,
see gray
I
faces.
know. It's really annoying. So on the software we're using, there's no name. So I'm now looking to the side to where my phone is so I can see Jane
I see.
Breakgrass. Hiya, Kathy. Hi, Hazel. Oh, definitely
Oh,
good
it's so nice. Thank
learner.
you, person Grace.
And hi
Grace
for
face. Still, I can't see your names.
It's great, isn't it? And hi, Viv, and loved the class this morning. I've done the David Cameron's mental reboot. Great fun. Hi, loved Mollie's class from Fiona. Ah, Emma sensed the dancer in you, and it felt
Yeah,
so therapeutic. And that's exactly the thing, which is the reason why I really wanted to talk to you, Mollie, is
yeah.
because what very much interests me, I suppose, as somebody who's older than I used to be, which
Right.
possibly is something a few of us have in common.
I'm older than I used to be too.
Right. It's because I used to do a very dynamic vinyasa and
Yeah.
an Ashtanga practice, and that doesn't feel so good in my body to do every
Yeah.
day anymore. And I'm
Yeah.
loving the functional movement. And
Yeah.
on on our kind of retreats and the way I've been in lockdown, I've been thinking, what is sustainability when it comes to our yoga practice and it comes to our
Yeah.
bodies? And because your
Yeah.
practice is now so different, it's about
Yeah.
a more therapeutic approach.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really interesting to talk about the sustainability of our
Yeah.
yoga.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a couple times I saw some long-term Ashtangis walking around, or even some of them coming in and out of their workshops that they were leading. And I thought, I don't want to walk like that when I'm 60. I don't want to walk like that, and I could see that the practice was serving something in their body, but the detriment of it was like walking. And for me, the practice is because I want to be able to take a teacup off the top shelf when I'm 90, right?
Yeah,
That's my goal, is to be able to
that's a
take a
good
teacup
goal.
off the top shelf when I'm 90, God willing, inshallah, whatever. But I want to get there. And so I want to get to the place where it's not about, I love physicality. I love physicality. And I think that love for physicality was what took me into things like Ashtanga and dynamic vinyasa and forced yoga and like that.
Yeah.
And I still feel like my body needs strong physicality. But if I have the attitude of, wrapping my leg 3 times around my head, or super extreme poses, what I end up with is pain. And I noticed that so stretching has a kind of analgesic effect. It feels good while you're doing it. It's like a pain reliever as you're doing it. But afterwards, then it's not a pain reliever anymore, right? So I noticed that I was going into these deep stretches, and I'm quite mobile and flexible anyway, and coming out in pain. And, we used to stand around. When I used to do Ashtanga, we used to stand around at the end of the class, all of us with our hands in our butts like this, going, how's your yoga butt today? How's your yoga butt today? Like, it was a completely normal thing to have a really sore, sitting bone after yoga practice. And at some point, I just went like, that can't be right. That can't be the right approach. Because you don't, I don't remember who said it to me, but, you don't get to, you don't get to peace through violence. You don't get to painlessness through pain.
Yeah.
You get to painlessness through, not avoiding, but not pushing yourself into the exact thing that you are trying to not have.
Right.
So, so that's kind of my thing, really, is the sustainability of it. And, right now I have healthy knees and healthy hip joints. And so I'm really happy to do, deep flexion or kind of weight bearing things that I know that my body allows me to do. But I don't try. So one of the things I have stopped doing is trying to stretch. Like, I don't think about stretching at all in my practice. What's that? Too radical. In fact, when I feel the sense of stretching, I back off a little bit. Right? When I feel the sense of I'm stretching my muscles, I try to do a little bit less. And so I think of like the stretch sensation is probably around 80% of my range. And I go, okay, if that's 80%, let me just back up to 60% and just play there where it feels like there, where the movement, I can still be in a big movement, but I'm not pushing myself towards the end range of it. So.
Yeah, that's a really interesting, and I love this comment from Raki. It's really insightful that this is absolutely yoga. In my opinion, yoga is more in an approach than about the shapes. It's about an explorative, and it's about inquiring what happens for awareness. And I think that's a lot smarter because in a way, when we're all new to the practice and we get very excited about how long our hamstrings can be and what shapes we can make, we want to just kind of power into the shapes and get there. But actually stepping back and thinking, am I 80%? Am I 60%? That power of observation.
Here I'm going to get into a little I think the thing is for me, I don't know who said this beautiful quote that I'm looking at. I think you were just talking about maybe Rocky. For me, that's absolutely what yoga is.
Yeah.
But people in the culture have gotten this idea that yoga is a set of shapes. And so if you don't do the set of shapes that they are expecting to get in the yoga class, then is it a yoga? It's like yoga as a brand name versus yoga as yoga. So I have had, I did used to teach Ashtanga, and so whoever said that, stretch sensations can be very addictive. That's the thing.
That's really interesting.
They're like a little bit of a drug. Yeah, so they have a little pain relieving, so they are a little bit of a drug, and so it is normal to get addicted. But so I used to teach Ashtanga. Even I went to a teacher. His name is Richard Freeman. He teaches in I think Colorado.
Yeah.
He's a genius, right? And his Ashtanga primary series class, I went to a few of those where you spent not 5 breaths in a pose to the next one to the next one. I spent a long time with my arms out to the side, feeling the textures of my the fibers of my muscles and the cells of my just transformative experience. But I had people come to my Ashtanga class when it was still called Ashtanga, and I only did Ashtanga poses and say, look, you just shouldn't call this Ashtanga. Nothing wrong with it, but just call it something else. And so finally I said, okay, you're right. I should no longer call this Ashtanga, even if I'm doing the poses, because it's not what people expect. And I don't want to offend anybody's sensibilities if they are coming wanting to do a thing.
Yeah.
So,
right. And that's interesting because that kind of goes into a sense of expectation.
Yeah.
Like, what do we expect when we want a yoga class? Like, why is it that we come to do yoga? Why are people here on a yoga retreat? I mean, I would love to hear from folks.
Why do you do yoga?
Why do you do yoga? I mean, I purposefully called Movement for Modern Life Movement for Modern Life, and I didn't call it Yoga for Modern Life.
Yeah.
Because I think that yoga it's something which is enwrapped in a cultural thing. There's a sense of expectation.
Yeah.
And it's, in a way, I think our preconceptions around a word is something that's not so useful.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I think expectation is as a teacher, is a challenge. I think, and the good thing about something like Movement for Modern Life is if somebody expects something different and the class that they start is not to their expectation or taste, they can just turn it off and go do something else. It doesn't offend the teacher the way it would if in a live studio you pay £18 for one class and then you go in and they don't like the teacher and you're like, I can't walk out of here. So I think it's, in fact, some of the times I've taught, on Movement for My Life, I felt very free in that capacity because I thought, if you like it, great, fantastic. And if it's not to your taste, then you just, you never have to do it again. You never have to.
That's right. We'll come by.
So, yeah. So, I was thinking of something over here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to see it very quickly. I think that what's the class was the Slinky Spine? Was that the 20-minute one where it's mostly standing up?
That's right. It's mostly standing up, and it's a really beautifully accessible spine health practice. Oh, this is interesting. Emma calls her classes Space to Breathe for the same reason. So it's interesting that, it's like this categorization of what people expect in a yoga class. Interesting exploration of stretch. This is Rosie. I do lots of work with young people with autism and use deep muscle stretch for grounding and calming, but love the idea of backing off from the stretch.
Yeah. So I think the thing is that muscles need to be moved in their full range, right?
Right.
And they need to go through a shortening and a lengthening. And the health of our muscle tissue involves shortening and lengthening. And but the place that we are most likely to get injured muscularly is when you're at the end of your range and then you add force. Right? So if you have your hand on the wall behind you or the table behind you and you're pushing on it and then you add force, that's when you're likely to get injured, right? Or if you're in a lunge and you're at the end of this range here and then you push further. So though we want to move the muscle, so stretching officially is reversing the function of a muscle over all of its joint surfaces. Is that exciting? You know, so you're reversing, the muscle shortens and pulls the arm in. When you reverse that function, that's stretching, and that's good, right? Like that level of stretching is fantastic for the muscle tissue. It's when you add force to it. So when I, you know, doing deep muscle stretch, you know, I've been reading this book. I'm gonna forget his name. It's about the vagus nerve, and our brains, right? So some of the stuff I do, especially when I do self-touch, is about the connection between the brain and the body. And so we have sensory nerves that are taking information from the body and sending it to the brain, and the brain is deciding what to do with it, right? And so when you do something like self-touch, you get better messages from the body to the brain because there's a stimulation, there's a change that the brain is registering. And so it wakes up, it kind of like wakes up that circuit. So when somebody's in like a kind of locked state, their sensory nerves are sending that message back up to the brain over and over again. So it becomes a vicious cycle. And when you do something like, I'm interested, I would love to talk to that person whose name I can't see about the autism work, because I think when you do create movement on a deep level, you know, it allows the connection to the brain to improve. And so, you know, some of all this stuff is like you're waking up sensory pathways, and in the nervous system and in the brain, and that's part of where the healing then can occur.
Yeah, we've got some pretty interesting comments, right?
Oh my goodness, there's so many interesting comments. I'm missing them all.
I know.
I came to the full agreement, and I discovered that it helped me meet myself in a vulnerable state and release emotion in a way that was life transforming. I still use access. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you know, many people come to yoga at a moment in their life when they're struggling, right? That's it's what inspires us to make positive changes, is when we are struggling. So bereavement or depression or difficult times. Yeah, so I think that's really common. I've been noticing, you know, how using yoga so I had a studio. I have some of my old videos on Movement from Modern Life are in my old studio, and then the studio had a fire. And after the fire, I was like, oh, you know, okay, I have the tools to deal with this in my nervous system. I've been doing yoga, you know, forever. And then I couldn't do it. First of all, I couldn't go into a yoga studio and see anybody that I knew. And second of all, like all the big movement just felt like I was too frazzled. And all I could really do was yoga nidra. I couldn't meditate. I couldn't do anything. All I did was yoga nidra and like very restorative. And I've been noticing some people saying, especially at the beginning of the sort of, I hate using the word lockdown, but anyway, the beginning of our quarantining, our self-isolation thing, they were, that, you know, some people really wanted to move it out, the feelings, and some people really felt like, actually my nervous system is saying, I need it to be slow, I need it to be soft, I need it to be simple, I can't take on a lot of this stuff. Who said that again, I can't see your names, afferent, efferent.
Oh, sorry. Which one are you, we've got so many lovely comments coming in. Which one are
Yeah.
you
So
reading?
the most recent one. Do you know,
That's
because I can't see,
Lizzie
if you can
Rumor.
just write your name at the beginning of your comment or at the end, it would be
That's Lizzie
so
Rumor.
great. Yeah, I mean, um, the afferent, efferent. Yeah, so I think that's exactly it, right? The afferent and the efferent is the messages coming in and the messages coming out, and people are different, and people are different based on a number of things, including their, you know, I mean, we don't know. Oh, hi, Lizzie. That's fantastic. Hi there. I still can't see who you are when you write a comment though, because it doesn't. It's just a little gray blog. But yeah, that's exactly right. That like when we don't know the whole picture of why things affect people in different ways, and you know, how we create input in the system. You know, I think that's a really interesting thing about yoga, is that everybody's system is taking in a shape, triangle pose or something,
Yeah.
and then it changes. You know, it's doing something in their chemistry, in their physiology, in their synaptic connections, you know, everything. I mean, there's just so many different ways that it could affect us in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. We don't know about our everyone's got a different physiology, a different history. So it's really fascinating. I'm loving all of the how everyone came to yoga following a bereavement, or Emma attracted to yoga as a non-competitive individual experience, different to sport. I'm with Emma. I came to this because it was different to the sport available at school, and it felt very much more accessible than that. Ursi, it's lovely to hear from you. Loving your retreats, part of something supportive. Starting a yoga practice has taught me so much about body and mind. Now, this is an interesting question from Millie. How do you see yoga complementing working alongside other forms of exercise? Because all the teachers have got a very different view on this. And she says, I remember
Yeah,
hearing Zara talking about this before. And Adam also talks on his podcast about this. A
yeah.
yogic approach to all forms of exercise. What do you think, Mollie?
About yogic approach to other forms of exercise?
Yeah, or how you see yoga complementing other forms of exercise.
Well, so I started doing gymnastics a couple years ago. There was a gymnastics thing, like a gymnastics club, you know, 3-minute walk away from my house, that had a gymnastics class at 8 p.m. so I could put my kids to bed, trot out of the house at 7:57 and get there on time. And so it was like tumbling, right? So it was like running and jumping and trampolines and like this. And I was like, oh my goodness, my body needs this.
Right.
And I realized that I had, you know, in my practice, because I am the slowest yogi in town. And my practice can be so slow and so like, you know, whatever, but I wasn't using the fast twitch muscles. And so I was doing this like running and jumping on things, and I was like, oh, there's a whole other system. Feels like it's waking up. It's not different. Because some of the shapes are completely different, but some of the shapes are, you know, similar. But when you're doing it in a fast way, it's so different from doing it in a slow way. So, you know, I don't know. Anybody who thinks you should only do one thing, I'm not a categorical person like that. I think diversity is, you know, our body loves to do different things and to be on different surfaces and to, you know, to have different kinds of sensory input and different kinds of movement pathways. So I can't see how, I mean, I can see how if you do a lot of yoga, you could create instability in way, you know, like you'd have to sort of balance your conditioning, the conditioning aspect of your work, to the, you won't like pull on something so much when you're in yoga that you need to have maybe a certain kind of tone in or something. But for me, body health is, you know, a diverse diet, a diverse movement diet, a again, that's my thing. I know other people, you know, have a much simpler diet than I do, and a much more regular life, and a much more steady kind of thing. So, yeah. So I don't really have a categorical answer to that one, but I think cross training is good, really.
Yeah.
I think, you know,
diversity and everything in life. How I see it is, I have a thing of like, don't take your need for exercise out on the yoga mat, because
yeah, I have that too. I have
you
that
have
too.
that too. Because I'm quite a feisty. I like to move. I like to do exercise, but I find that if I use my yoga practice as exercise, I will take things too far.
Me too. That's the same for me. If I need to run, I need to run. If I need to punch things, I need to punch things.
Right.
You know, like, I don't really have that experience very often, but you know, if I need to flip, I need to flip.
Mm-hmm.
And if I go to yoga with that kind of, and it's not entirely true. You know, I did this video of something yesterday, and I was like, wow, I'm doing capoeira. I'm like, you know, like my legs are like, you know, flipping behind me, and I'm taking all this weight, and I felt so great, and my heart was beating and like that, and it was super fun. And so, you know, that kind of thing can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like thinking of my need for exercise on my yoga mat either. It doesn't serve me well. It makes me, either I take things too far, or I obsess about things in a way that isn't healthy for me, or it's just better for me to recognize my need to move or walk or run or whatever. Body combat, do the body combat for a cardiovascular, and then come and do yoga for softness, for a different kind of state of your nervous system. That's what I like.
So. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I think that because I do hill walking, you know, pounding up and down hills, which you know, you're in nature, you're using your body, and then you can come to the yoga mat. Because if I have that energy on the yoga mat, I'm just going to hurt myself, and I do hurt myself. I've done it. You know, I need to be really careful. And for me, it's kind of going back to the sustainability, like keeping our bodies healthy. Like, I do yoga to stay healthy and happy, and I don't want to injure myself. That's the most important thing. Do you have any tips for people on how to stay injury free in yoga? Because that's you know, we don't want people to hurt themselves, and it's hard when you're at home and you're doing a practice.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is, of course, if it's hurting, don't do it. Right. And the second piece of that is, you know, don't give away your power to the teacher. And so if the teacher is telling you to do something and your body is going, I don't understand this. This is weird.
Yeah.
I don't like this, whatever, you know, don't give away your sovereignty to the teacher and say, oh, the teacher's the authority, I should do it because the teacher says. Like, they're not living in your body. You know, so and I think my most common times of being injured are when, like of a traumatic injury rather than a sort of long-term repetitive injury, is from that specifically. So, you know, I mean, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about being at home on some level, is that you don't have anybody to impress, you don't have anybody to prove it to, you don't have anybody to, you know, to tell you you're doing the wrong thing if you decide you don't want to do that particular pose in the class. So that's great. I shouldn't be telling people to do that. Follow the instructions of your teacher. No, I'm not that person. So, so you know, go slower, go smaller, do something else. You know, like, just don't do it if it's not the right thing for you. Especially because you're not in a space with a teacher to be able to say,
this doesn't.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
So that's my like number one thing. And then the other thing for me is like, you know, I don't use the yoga mat for exercise, just as you said, and I try not to use it for like, I think I should balance my body first and then practice, not balance my body through the practice. So for me, a real key, I think there's in one of them in one of my videos, is you know, standing on my hip joints. Right. So I find my hip joints, I stand on my hip joints, I figure out where my pelvis is aligned, sometimes I touch the top of my head. I go, okay, there's the midline of my body, my head, my ribs, my pelvis, and my ankles. Kind of, what's the relationship there? Then I do a little bit of like, a lot like that spine class, right? A little bit of back and forth movement in different ways, back and forth movement in different ways. Okay, I've reset my shoulders, I've reset my spine. Now I go into yoga, right? So I warm up, and I don't even, I taught this thing on warming up a couple weeks ago, but warming up is like, for me, it's the foreplay. It's the good stuff, right? It's like the what takes you to the point where you're able to get there, rather than like a kind of add on at the beginning, or like a waste of time that you just have to get through so you can get to the real deal. Like, so I love warming up, and I love like a juicy, sensual experience of getting into my body, and that I think has been really, really helpful. And then in my particular psychology, if I try to perform my practice, or impress somebody, or like do it from that attitude, then I do too much, or I like whatever, just stupid. That's my
I love that, and it's resonating with people. So this is Sam's comment. What I love about Mollie's work and thought process behind her work is it leads me to engage in the felt experience. It's a process of embodiment where the mind is actually being put aside. It appeals to me as it connects to the here and now rather than the end result. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. I mean, that's my absolute purpose. I think I wanted to say something to Raki here. Movement can support grief and trauma. So, I think it's just, I just had this thought about it, and then it just vanished from my head. I think it's connected to that other, the one just before that Sam said. Like, well, I don't know. For me, trauma disembodies me, right? Or takes me out of my center, right? So yesterday, I was doing some things, and I was doing things fast, and I got like, I like did something that was a bit weird, and then I got in a fight with my husband, and like all this stuff. And I was like this at the end of the day, just like anxious and nervous and like all this kind of stuff. And I know that's different from trauma. But the experience of like slowing down my system and coming back into feeling, right? Because sympathetic nervous system response takes you out of feeling, right? Because sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, or freeze, is about saving yourself and saving yourself pain. So if you have a lion chasing you and you twist your ankle, you don't want to feel your ankle hurting. You want to get out of there, right? Or the fight, so, and if you're fighting, you want to just keep punching. Even if someone punches you, you got to keep punching. And if you're at the last stage of that, which is the freeze response, right? It's like I'm going completely dead, because if I'm alive, the pain hurts more. So when we teach ourselves to go back into feeling, right? You can't be in both states at once. So you can't be in your fight or flight and be aware. And so, I use self-touch. I heard this piece on the radio. I think it was on like Radio 4, right? And it was, and I was driving, I couldn't write down anything about it, but it was this woman talking about touch and talking about, the problem with lockdown is that we're all going to be touch starved. And, they were like, oh, give yourself a hug. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so validated, right? Like I do all this self-touch thing, because for me, when I come into self-touch, like it's a access point to the felt feeling state, because I'm giving myself an input. That's not just like, okay, feel your ribs. It's like, no, feel your ribs. Like, oh, my ribs. Oh yeah, I forgot. Like, look how, oh my goodness, they're so big. Like, I have that experience a lot. Like, oh my goodness, my ribs are so big. They're like, oh my God, they go all the way down to there. Oh, my hips are so high up, and I like, oh, my body, right? But that for me takes me out of the
Mm.
sympathetic response and
Right.
into a softer response. So
Mm. That's a great way for folks to I love that as a, like, dealing with anxiety and fear and the things that have been coming up and grief for a lot of folks
yeah,
during this time.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that sort of feeling, "Oh, yeah, here is me."
yeah,
And how does it
yeah,
feel to be me as well as the felt thing
yeah.
inside?
How does it feel to be me? You know, how does it, and to be me right now,
Mm,
right? Like how is it? How is it to be you right now? You know,
mm.
sometimes
Because
we don't.
well, it's hard to get that because, I mean,
Yeah,
I
it
don't know
is. It's hard to.
about you, but I have a thing which is like, well, I know how I felt before, like, and I
Yeah,
expect my body to feel like it did when it was 20, and it
yeah,
doesn't because I'm not.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's funny, isn't it? We kind of get stuck in our loops from the past, and
yeah.
things
Easily.
change every day.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Mm,
And you know, but I also think, you know, you brush your teeth every day, I
mhm,
hope. I mean, I don't know, but you brush your teeth every day, right? Like coming into your experience of yourself is something that you have to just keep doing all the time, right?
mm,
You have to like clean up the pathway every day
right,
because it gets, you know, gunk in it, and you have to do it every day. And that doesn't, you know, right now it
mhm,
doesn't mean for me like an hour and a half of yoga every day. It
mm,
means connecting to myself every day, right? Or a lot, frequently, little and often, you know.
mm,
Oh my
mm.
goodness. Okay, like let me just put the kettle on for a second and like, you know, like okay, I'm still myself. I'm still here. I have a face, a
Yeah,
heart. You know, I'm just like a feet. The feet are good to like. Oh yeah, I've got feet. Um,
mm. I love
so
it.
yeah,
That's such a lovely way of just getting through tough times.
uh,
Just put on the kettle and feel, "Here I am."
it's really
That's
hard to
that's
do
like
it.
that's
Yeah.
one of the best yoga tips I've heard for dealing with this kind of crazy experience that we're all going
Mm,
through. I think that's really grounding.
you know, I think we can kind of get an idea that we have to do big things.
Mhm,
And again, it goes back to trauma. Like we have to do like big things to have it be valid. And in
mhm,
fact, small things, um, you know, really small interventions in the
mhm,
body. That was something I learned from Bo Forbes actually. Like she does
mhm,
these restorative poses with like a blanket folded, like a, you know, once,
mhm,
right? Put that somewhere, and you're like, oh, I don't need to have like 6 blocks pushing into my body to. And in fact, the 6 blocks, the nervous system can't really take it on. But the one folded blanket, the nervous system can kind of accept as a small intervention.
mhm,
Um, thanks, Emily. Yeah. Um, you know, so those small moments, you know, help us recalibrate. And then when we have an opportunity to do big things, that's great too. You know, it's sort of just the same thing we've been talking about before. But um, we can, you know, we can make tiny adjustments, and those tiny adjustments accumulate over time, rather than thinking we have to do some kind of huge thing and then either failing, right,
mhm.
which is always something that can happen, you know, thinking that we're failing, or just not being something that the system can integrate very well.
Right. That's fascinating. Um,
Space.
Yeah, this is a great comment from Sam. Deeply prolonged traumatic experience embed themselves in our physical structure. There often isn't
Yeah.
space to use spoken language. That's so true. And the somatic work really is helpful. Yeah, the vocal cords can take a rest. I absolutely love that, Sam, because we're
Mhm.
all so in our heads and our mouths in this culture, in this society, aren't we? We're just always saying things and thinking things and giving ourselves space to feel right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I mean, somatic work has, you know, it's been fantastic for me, for my life. Like, just,
Mhm.
I can't even really imagine myself another way, except that at one point, I think I went home a few years ago, and I had this experience that everybody I knew was on antidepressants, and I was like,
Right.
oh, like maybe, and I don't have a problem with that, but it just was like, maybe I don't need antidepressants because I've done some, because I've sort of coped with the circumstances in my life in a different way, and the somatic work being a way to cope, and I know somebody said about a bereavement, and I know that, like, I came to yoga not knowing anything about myself and my body and how to operate my life, and so the somatic work, much like power walking or body combat, like, you can come to the somatic, talking therapy has a definite value, really important value, but if it's the only way, we can just entrench ourselves in the same patterns, and whether those be physical patterns, emotional patterns, whatever, we can just keep walking the same line, and um, I think, you said, you're not as young as you were before, and I am not either, and my spine is having experiences that I watched my grandmother, kind of get a scoliosis, and you know really affected her life, and I see it happening to my dad, and I look at my dad and I go like, oh, it's my body, that's where I'm going. Obviously it's a male version and older, but so I have really wanted to figure out how to keep my system balanced, and whether that's a learned movement pattern that I've that's been picked up, or genetic, or like it doesn't, or like a trauma pattern, or whatever it is, it doesn't even matter where it comes from. It's the unpicking and the unwinding and the giving your body other opportunities to move and find a different patterning, that for me has been very healing. And it doesn't even mean that I'm solving the problem. It's just that it's like brushing my teeth every day. Like, I feel like I'm not getting worse. And so that's good, obviously.
You're more
Yeah.
likely
So coming at these things from a lot of different perspectives, from a somatic perspective, from a talking therapy perspective, from a sound, like from other non-linguistic, vibrational sound, whatever, coming at it from all these different ways. Actually, it's funny. It's one of my first, when I was in Japan, I was 19, and I had this Zen teacher, and he said, I asked some question about, what's the way? He was like, you come in here, 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 and eventually you have and I, again, it was a very wordless experience, so I'm adding, but it just really, really spoke to me that, our processes, our spirituality, our healing, whatever, they can come in through different pathways, because the different pathways create different qualities of healing, different medicine for different aspects of the woundedness.
That's so interesting.
Just
Raki
fun.
has. Oh, sorry.
And I just said you got me going a little deep there.
Oh, I like that. I think deep is good. I think our retreaters are ready for that. Now, Raki is interested to find out how so many movers here are finding empowerment by finding their own way with their body and being allowed to explore. And she says that she teaches teens, and it's a source of delight when they listen to their own bodies and trusting it. So, yeah, it'd be great to hear how people are finding that as a process, and whether what Mollie has said is ringing true about the awareness, the embodied awareness.
Yeah, there's a book I haven't read, but I think the quote from it is "moving at the speed of trust."
Wow.
And you know, that to me is so profound. I should read the book, but I haven't had a chance to yet. But anyway,
It's
I
a
think
good
it's like
title.
or somebody like that. You know, some like really big self-help person. If anybody's read it, I'd like to know your opinion of it. But you know, trust is a process, right? It's not like it's not like a haircut or something. It's just like you do it and then it's there. It's like it's a process that you have to keep integrating with, and you know, trusting your body. You know, when you said about teaching teens and they have moments of trusting their body, like I wish I had any trust of my body when I was a teenager, which I had none, right? So, you know, this process of trusting and trusting the messages and trusting, like, you know, my body will tell me when it's hungry, my body will tell me when it's cold, you know, and like even starting from there, like trusting your body to send you those messages. You know, not all of us can even have that at any given moment. You know, sometimes we have to do things from the outside, you know, like look around, everybody's eating another plate of soup, you can have another one, you know, or whatever. So yeah, so I think, you know, that idea that you come into the relationship with your body of trust, which, you know, I don't know, you're all interested in yoga, and a few of you have said, you know, this is something like this idea of trusting your body is new, right? Like it's not in the culture. There are not billboards and adverts saying trust your body. They're saying, you know, buy our stuff, you know, and so it's like disempowering. It's completely like telling you that you lack something, and if you purchase their shit, then you will, you know, you will have that whatever it is. And so it's the completely opposite message to trust your body, right? Completely. So yeah, static pose can benefit from moving in a yeah. So from a scientific perspective, or not a scientific perspective, there has been scientific studies that have said, I think there was one about splits, and they were measuring people's improvement in splits, and they had them do 3 short repetitions of the split versus holding it for a long time.
Right.
And the graph of the improvement goes like, you know, time is on one axis and, you know, whatever their measurement of improvement is. And so it goes like that, right? So if you hold it for a long time, it goes up for like the first 10 seconds and then it just flattens out.
Okay.
But if you do it 3 times, you get that one on the first arc, and then on the second one, it goes higher, and on the third one, it goes higher. So it's not to say that static stretching doesn't have benefits as well, although some of them are kind of controversial, and the evidence about it is not conclusive. I've been just reading a lot about it recently. But yeah, there is research that suggests that, you know, coming in and going out more repetitions is where the improvement really happens, rather than the duration we hold something.
Right.
Oh yeah, eurythmics. That's so funny. It's been coming. I know somebody who's training in eurythmics, and I think there are people who do. I know that there's somebody in London who's doing eurythmics classes, Delacroix, and eurythmics classes. And it was been suggested to me that I would love it. So anyway, if we find it, we can all go together.
We should explore that on Modern Life. That would be good.
Moving for Modern Life eurythmics classes. There's a few other ones. There's one called Gaga, which is Israeli, and Ohad Naharin is a choreographer, and he created this movement form called Gaga, and they're doing lots of Zoom things right now in the thing. So yeah, so there's that. Is it a thing?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a thing again. I don't know. I have no. To me, it sounds very 70s, the Delacroix thing. So 70s, 80s, but it still is around somewhere. There are still people doing it. There's someone out here in Hampshire, where I live right now, doing Delacroix. So
I'm enjoying Hazel's contribution. I brought much more fluidity of movement into my classes over the past year or so. Previously, poses were fairly static. I thought that people may not think I'm teaching proper yoga. So, Mollie, it's great hearing you say something similar at the beginning. Some research I said says a static pose can benefit from moving in and out beforehand. Yeah, it also feels great to move around in a pose. I absolutely agree. Yeah, I think that like sometimes, even with something like a down dog, getting a little bit flexible and feeling
Yeah,
it
I mean, a
and
lot of
feeling.
people do that one in downward dog where they say like pedal the feet. And so I think that, for me, what's interesting, first of all, is that you add movement, but also that you add intentionality to the movement, right? So
Right.
it's just not like, okay, move around. Okay, turn your wrists. Okay, circle your neck. Okay, now we're warmed up. Okay, now we do the thing. Or like go into downward dog and pedal your feet and then, like sway side to side. And it doesn't like take people somewhere. So I think, I get the sense a few of you are teachers. Again, I can't see your names. I know Lizzie's a teacher, a beautiful teacher. But when we take people into that exploration, or yourself, it's really good to give yourself some kind of intention, right? So, pedal the feet. Like, I want to feel the feet. I want to feel the calves. I want to feel, what else can I feel? What else can I connect to? Oh, my waist. I pedal the feet in downward dog. I feel my waist opening up, or my spine, or I want to feel the bones of my feet articulating.
Right.
So you can give yourself like a physical something that you're looking for, or you could give yourself a quality, right? Like, so I'm going to add movement to this pose because, the theme of this class is water, or I want to feel watery, right? So I'm going to use the wateriness to get into, into the kind of, I don't want to say extra movement, but the pulsation, or yeah. So I think that's really useful. It's interesting because I'm doing a little thing on my Instagram right now of, I made this thing a few years ago that's an intuitive movement chart, and it's a way of thinking about adapting and changing up movement, and it's free. It's like one of the free things I give on my website. And so I've been kind of talking about it in terms of what are different kind of impulses that you can give to movement so that you create variety, right? And so you could slow it down, you can speed it up, you can think about connections between body parts. And so I made this whole thing. And I think Mimi's classes are good at that too. Yeah, I think she's probably really good at it.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's on my Instagram right now. That each day I'm posting a little thing about different ways you can adapt movement.
So what's your Instagram, just if folks want to follow you?
Mollie Yoga, Mollie Yoga, very easy.
Perfect.
So this question, I'll just do this one quickly. If I had 10 minutes, what part of the body should I concentrate on every day? So I think your hip joints is a really good place to start, because if you're not on your hip joints, then almost anything else that you do is going to be on an unstable foundation. And you can find your hip joints in about 20 seconds and kind of embody your hip joints, right? So should I just do it really super quickly? So you put your hand, you do one side, you put your hand on this bone that points forward, and then you put one hand on the pubic bone, so where you zip up your jeans, right down there, and there's a crease in between the two of them. And about halfway along the crease, so just underneath my ring, like that's where my hip joint is, inside the body, if I travel in. So if I touch that point, another way to find it is like a fist distance, right? So there. So I touch it and I go, okay, my hip joint, there's a femur, that's what it looks like, okay? Good to have a bug when you're at.
I love that you have a femur lying around the house.
Am I standing on it? Okay, now I do the other side. Okay, there it is. I mean, I've done it a lot of times, so I'm pretty fast. But then I go, okay, am I standing behind? Am I standing in front? How do I do? Am I standing in front? How do I balance myself from that perspective? Okay, cool. Now I'm on my hip joints, right? So that's 30 seconds. I did it in a minute and then some spinal movements, really good. Flexion and extension, lateral flexion, a little bit of twisting. I like to do tapping. Tap, 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 tap down the legs, tap the feet, brushing, rubbing. Same thing, arms, chest, back, move around when you do it, la la la. So that's another 3 minutes. And then a little bit, you know, this is sort of cultural, but we all usually need some upper back.
Yeah.
So some shoulder, close, open, release. That feels so much better already. Other side, you know, a little squeezing of the neck, squeezing of the shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, feels so good. Rub down, 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 a little bit of the wrist. Brush, 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 tap, tap, tap. One arm, another arm. Brush, brush, brush. Maybe I'll write them down. Cat. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. Shake, shake, shake. Back of the neck, little rub. I also like doing, I have these, I think they're in one of my videos, like these balls. So balls under the feet, you know, half a minute to a minute on each foot, like rolling and squishing on it. And yeah, I really like, that's one I will share right now, is I really like kind of lifting up here.
How does that look?
In the collarbone, I feel like the collarbone's going down here and then up a few times. And then pause, and then it just feels like, look, my shoulder just feels totally different than the other one. So you touch right here at the pit of your throat, and there's a joint right there. And so when the shoulder goes up, it's like this bit of the collarbone goes down. And then when the shoulder goes down, it's like this bit goes up. Just do that like 4 times. And then when you've done both sides, you can kind of imagine that this bit's lifting and this bit's relaxing. And then it feels like, I feel like we should do that when we put makeup on, right? You like do your collarbone, get your whole beauty from here, and then you can do whatever you want on the face, but you know, coming from that place. So yeah, that's my super speedy tips. But tapping, brushing, rubbing, wiggling would be 10 minutes in the morning of that. You'd be doing well.
Sure. That's perfect, Mollie. I've so been enjoying this. It's such a great conversation. It's gone so deep. I feel that we could talk here forever, but I want to be a bit respectful of your time and that of everybody else, because I know that lots of people have got supper to prepare and things like this. If anyone comes up with any other questions, or if we haven't hit on anything, Mollie, if you'd be able to take a little look at the questions later, and
we can. I don't know how I do that, but you can tell me that later. Yeah,
I can. You're on the Movers group. So that is how. So I'll get Mollie hooked up there, and hopefully, if there's any other questions, just let us know. But I think it's been a really lovely conversation about how to keep our yoga practice, our body practice, simple. And that's what sustainability, and that's kind of what this whole thing is all about. So it's really been helpful to me, Mollie. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And again, I can't see all of your names, but I have gotten a few of them. But thanks so much, Fiona, and who else? Raki. Those of you whose names I picked up. And
Fiona,
feel free to drop me a line, or whatever. Come visit my world. I hope to see you or speak to you or something again soon.
Yeah, everyone get on Mollie's Instagram and find out. It sounds like you've got some good stuff going on there. All right, thank you so much, Mollie.
Oh,
and
my
thank
pleasure.
you so much, everybody. All right, take care. Bye.
Thank you.